that, in addition to what I was sharing earlier around providing that positive feedback, that acknowledgement often, I think when we do that, then we start to dismantle the automatic fear around receiving feedback. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to another episode. I am your host, and today let's talk about effective feedback giving. Oftentimes, when we have to receive feedback, it is a very anxiety provoking process. And even for those who have to provide that feedback, it can be anxiety provoking because we've been socialized negatively around giving feedback. Even words like we need to talk or I need to talk to you about something, those spark, I'm sure even as you heard them, they spark a physiological reaction in a person's body. And that is because how historically we've been socialized to those words. Today, I just want to share a few tips, and this will be a short and sweet episode about what it looks like to be able to begin to transform the experience of both receiving and giving feedback. Now, I think that to transform the experience of receiving feedback, the person giving the feedback actually has a lot of the power there. But I'll start with, as a receiver of feedback, how we can begin to settle our nervous systems when someone tells us that they need to talk to us about something. One of the first things that happens is we get nervous because they say, I need to talk to you about something, or we need to talk, and we have no idea what they're wanting to talk about. And so we're socialized to be a little nervous about the unknown. Our brain wants to know what's about to happen. And because we're already socialized negatively to those words, our brain fills in the gap with pictures of what you've potentially done wrong. In order to begin to fill that gap with more accurate pictures, we can ask questions. Someone says, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And you could say, well, could you give me an idea about what? Or is there a problem? Or what is it that you want to talk to me about? And so then it gives the other person an opportunity to say, oh, I wanted to run something by you about this project. Or, oh, I wanted to talk to you if it's a personal interaction. Oh, I want to talk to you about where we're going for dinner tonight. And if it is something, I want to talk to you about something that happened earlier. If it is something that may be negative, at least your brain is filling in the gap accurately. It's not just being left in the unknown. And I think that's important because even if there is something that needs improving or something that happened that was harmful or something that happened that was bothersome, the person can say, hey, I want to talk about something that happened yesterday that I just want to get clarity on. Now I'm going to come back to the person who is requesting that talk in just a moment. Well, one of the things that we can do as receivers, or being on the receiving end of that language, is on the receiving end, one of the things that we can do is to really inquire a little bit more. You can even say, listen, just to settle my brain, can you just give me a snapshot of what you want to talk to me about? So to use that language to fill that gap so that our brain is not wondering, because even if it is something that needs to be improved on, even if it is going to be a difficult conversation or something that needs to be resolved, your mind is not wondering whether it's good or bad. Your mind at least knows, okay, it's a difficult conversation coming up. We have this talk, and your nervous system can be prepared for that. All right. Now, from the side of the provider of feedback, sometimes we're not mindful of the pictures that we are producing in the heads of our listeners. And so when we say things like, we need to talk, and we say it in a particular tone, they're already starting to get a picture of something bad's about to happen. So we can start to reframe how we deliver our requests for a conversation. If it isn't about something that is conflict or a difficult conversation or a breakup or a termination or something that's bad that's happened, we can deliver that a little bit differently. So if you are the person who needs to talk, you could say, hey, when do you have time for a conversation? I want to share some things. I was thinking about this XYZ. Or, hey, can you come into my office for a minute? This is if you're in an organization. Can you come into my office for a minute? I wanted to run something by you. And so at least if they don't know what's about to be run by them, they understand that this is not you're in trouble conversation. Or it's, hey, if it is a conversation that requires correction, then maybe it's, hey, when you get some time, let's sit down for a conversation. I want to share with you some things that I'm noticing, right? So what that does is it fills in the gap without it appearing extremely menacing. And that person may know, okay, well, there may be some negative feedback coming and some correction coming because of the fact that you've shared with them what it is that you want to talk about. Even though there may be still some anxiety associated with the conversation, it's probably a little bit less because they know what's coming, right? So they can mentally prepare for that conversation. I think the other thing for us who are people who are the providers of feedback is that it's important to provide just as much positive feedback, just as much acknowledgement as corrective feedback. So what that means is if you are managing people, and I can use my son as an example because as a mom, we're always, as a mom, there's always corrective action happening. There's always redirection happening. And so as much redirection as I need to give to my son, I am very aware that I need to provide that positive feedback as well, that positive reinforcement, like, hey, you really did a good job. Hey, I see. Oh, I saw that you put those dishes away without me having to ask. I appreciate that. Or, oh, look at this. Okay, I see you got a 95 and 100 on these math these math tests. Seems like you're understanding your math a lot more now, right? So to like really give that positive recognition and that positive feedback when he's done something as often as, and in fact more than I provide that corrective action. And especially if I provide corrective action and I notice that he's taken notes, I say, oh, I see. Oh, I see you've made an improvement on something, we talked about. Oh, I see you've been putting the dishes away in their right place. Bringing this back to, say, our leadership roles, when you notice that your team member has either taken the coaching for something that you've done or has made corrective action based on a conversation, acknowledging that. If you notice something good that they did, some valuable feedback that they provided in a meeting, some initiative that they took without you having to told them, volunteer them, right? To notice that. So when you notice the good things and you notice them often and you notice them out loud, what it does is it builds security and it builds trust and it builds safety. And there's that word again. It builds safety inside of the relationship such that when you say, hey, I've been noticing some things, let me come into the office. I'm noticing some things. I want to give you some feedback. There's not an automatic, uh-oh reaction. There's not an automatic, what did I do wrong reaction. There's not an automatic fear behind that feedback. And so these are the ways that we can begin to dismantle that automatic fear response when we want to provide redirection or corrective action in our team members and our colleagues and our children. It's all in the way we deliver it and in the balancing of providing positive feedback so that when there's corrective or when there's things that need improvement, that it doesn't feel so heavy. So that brings me around to a structure for when you're giving feedback in a formal setting, like say, for example, a performance review. You always want to start with I like to call this the feedback hamburger, like the feedback sandwich. And so you start with the positive. Overall, I think you are doing this well, this well, this well. So noticing the things that they're doing well first. All right. And then something that a lot of leaders don't do is the next question to ask. Well, what is it that you feel like you could improve on? What do you feel like your growth edge is? What is your learning edge? And because what that'll do is that'll give you insight into whether they have insight of where they're struggling or where they need support or what they need to improve upon. And I often do this with my son. So we take martial arts together, and when we go to class, he always asks me, do you think I did a good job today, Mom? And I ask him, what do you think? What do you think that you did well? And what do you think you need to improve upon? And then he'll share with me what that is. And I'll say, I think you did a great job today. And I'll notice the things that he did well. Right. And then after that, I'll notice the things that I'll either co-sign on the things that he said that he felt like he could improve upon, or I'll notice something additional. And then I close it. So I said, you open it with what you notice that's going well, that's working, that they're doing well. So start with acknowledgments. Then you ask the question, what is it that you feel like you're struggling with? What do you need support on? What do you feel like you could do better on? Then you can either co-sign and or add an additional bit of reference for, okay, well, in addition to that, here's some other things that I'm noticing. And then you close on positive. And overall, like I said, you're doing this well. And you also want to ask, like, what do you need? What kind of support can we provide to help you to get better at those things that are a challenge, or that you need redirection on, or that you need correction on, or that you need more skill on, right? So you want to ask that question, and then you close with an overall acknowledgement. And so just to recap that, open with acknowledgement, closing with acknowledgement. In the middle, ask where they feel like they can improve, where they're struggling, where they need support, and what can we provide to that support. And then add in additional noticings where they can improve, and then again close with acknowledgement. My son plays basketball, and we often have this conversation as well. Y'all played a great game today, really great game. What do you think you did well? Well, I took some shots. I took more shots in this game than I usually do. Got some turnovers. I got some steals. Absolutely, you did. Where do you think you need to practice more? Well, I think I need to practice my shooting form so I can get more accuracy. Absolutely. Here's something I noticed on the team. But you all really played a good game. I noticed that you all are coming together more. It definitely it's looking better and better each game. See, that's an example of that feedback sandwich. And so that, in addition to what I was sharing earlier around providing that positive feedback, that acknowledgement often, I think when we do that, then we start to dismantle the automatic fear around receiving feedback. All right. And part of that is building safety. It's building psychological and emotional safety when we start to provide feedback in this different kind of way. And it also leaves the recipient of the feedback feeling empowered. And we know when we feel empowered, we feel more motivated to make the changes that need to be made. All right. When we feel appreciated and acknowledged, we feel more empowered and motivated to make those adjustments and to make those changes. And when the people that we're giving feedback to leave feeling empowered, we feel empowered. We feel like, oh, wow, I've given them a gift of sorts, right? I am giving them the gift of growth, of being empowered, of taking ownership. And so this is, I think, a framework for reframing how feedback is given and how it's received so that it feels less traumatic to people. If you found this helpful, I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment, leave a review on the platform, your favorite podcast platform, especially if you're on Apple Podcast, this helps to serve up these tips so that others can get the value and pass this on. I would invite you to, if you found this valuable, listen to this episode again. You can speed it up and listen to it on 1.5 to get through it faster if you like. And if you know someone who this would be helpful for, I invite you to share it. A friend, a family member, a colleague, a leader in your organization. Because when we start to dismantle the types of conversations that activate trauma, then we start to seed more trust and safety. And when we seed more trust and safety, then we build in empowerment and productivity and collaboration. And that's what we're endeavoring to do, right? And that deepens our impact and widens our impact. So with that, I leave you to go and practice this new framework for feedback. And I wonder if you are a veteran of this podcast. You know, I've talked a lot about the remap framework. And so if you are new to this podcast, there's a whole episode on the remap framework. There's several of them. So you're welcome to go and listen to that episode. But I wonder how you can integrate this process of giving feedback into the remap framework, recognizing, reflecting on how you already give feedback, on where your growth edge is for that, moving with emotional awareness and flexibility, especially if you're the recipient of feedback, but also if you're the giver of feedback, being emotionally aware, not only of your feelings around it, but of the other person feeling coming in, so that you can model this new framework and mirror something a little bit different than what they're used to being mirrored. Using acknowledgement and so that they feel like they can take accountability, but you also taking accountability for how you deliver the feedback. And practice, because practice makes progress, not perfection. So I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. But until then, you all stay empowered.